Hey, folks, thanks for tuning into the BAMF podcast. I'm your host, Mike Lafferty, and here is our contractually obligated intro music. I wish you folks could have seen Alexander Thomas's very restrained happy dance while that was playing.
That's a good beat. It's got a good bop to it.
It is a good beat. And it assures our listeners and viewers that they are ingesting a high quality, finest production value, ethically sourced, farm to table podcast right now. Yeah. So anyway, welcome to the BAMF podcast. This is one of our occasional series on writers, and we're talking to Alexander Thomas, who I'll let him introduce himself here in a second. You can go to alexanderwrites.com, which you'll see in that really cool scrolling banner at the bottom of the screen. Check out his stuff. Alexander, why don't you introduce yourself to the nice folks at home?
Yeah, hi everybody. I'm Alex is fine in person. Alexander's just my fancy name or whatever, my publishing name and my in trouble name. But I am Alex. I am the co-line developer for Mutants and Masterminds of Green Ronin Publishing. I am the executive producer of the Untold Stories Project, an actual play channel where we do tabletop RPG streams. And I am the author of the Titan City Chronicles, a fantasy noir series of books all about an alternate America where magic is real and wizards are portrayed by Humphrey Bogart.
Oh my god, I love that idea.
Yeah, it's I try to tell people it's sort of like Dresden Files meets Casablanca, or what if Humphrey Bogart went to Hogwarts is sort of a couple of the little elevator pitch styles.
That's Philip Marlowe with the Wizard Staff. You got me. That's well. Tell me about The Magician's Sin. That's the book in that series. People can buy right now on Amazon.
Mm-hmm. This is book one in the series, and it is the story of Anson Walker, who in the 1860s was the chosen one, and then after he fulfilled his prophecy, he was just left there for 70 years. We rejoined him in 1933 as he's sort of grappling with his immortality, and he has gone from being this heroic figure to being a monster hunter for hire, with several shades of Sam Spade underneath. He's trying to take advantage of this event that happens every 70 years to put an end to his unnatural existence when he finds out that his ex-wife has been abducted, and her daughter comes to him and says, I need your help rescuing her before this happens. And as he goes into the underbelly of Titan City to fight mobsters and monsters, he realizes that he might not be quite so ready to die as he thought he was.
Usually I have to prod people into delivering the elevator pitch for their book, but you had that queued up. That's beautiful, man. Thank you very much. That sounds like a really fascinating book. I'm going to check this out. So tell me, it is a lot of times in urban fiction, or urban fantasy, there will be like a one big, sometimes they call it the white event that reintroduces magic into the modern day. Do you have something like that, or is it more like an alternate history where magic has always been interwoven into society?
So magic has always existed in the Titan City universe, but there is an event where the public became aware of it that the main character of this book is responsible for. In 1908, he took a job as a stage magician for his friend from the Civil War whose business was failing. And instead of learning stagecraft and all the fun Harry Houdini stuff, he was like, I'll just do real magic in front of everybody and make them deal with it. And his assistant during that time in his life is who eventually wound up becoming his wife, and together the two of them became costume crime fighters, and he used his magic to fight mobsters and monsters. And now, in the last 20 years or so since that event has been revealed to the world, everybody's sort of been grappling with how to have magic and monsters coexist with society at large, rather than doing the traditional urban fantasy thing where magic is sort of squirreled away from everybody else, and there's like a secret magic world. This is basically everybody is in a free for all.
So how do you deal with that? Does the mobsters, do they have their own stragas? Helping them do stuff like hitmen? Does the FBI have their own, flying squad of wizards or something different?
Yeah, so some of the mobs, there are several major organized crime families in the Titan City universe that have different relationships with monsters. The Irish Mafia, the Kelly Gang is what they're called. They have monster whisperers who sort of persuade monsters to come and work for them in exchange for money and a place in society. The proletariat, the Russian mob, they prefer to press gang monsters into doing what they want, so they sort of focus on animalistic creature-style monsters rather than looking into sentient quote-unquote monsters to work with them. And there's a Department of Monster Affairs that is the government's representative in all this, where they've got monster spokespeople who are trying to show people that monsters are good, they can coexist. There are some who work with the police. They sort of get around.
Okay. Do you deal with all how organized religion has responded to that?
Yes. So the Catholic Church is big in Titan City because it's where Boston is supposed to be in our world. So there are a lot of Catholics there who are sort of grumpy about the whole everything is real aspect of it. And they have gotten a little bit of reassurances from their God that he's also sort of around. He's sent some emissaries down to be like, look, I'm real too, I promise. While these other gods and goddesses and other entities have sprung up, trying to build followings of their own now that they can kind of do it in public again like they used to.
Look, here's a burning bush. How about that, guys, huh?
Right? Yeah, the Christian God, quote unquote, he's the most powerful right now because he has come up with the ultimate multi-level marketing scheme. He created Christianity, Judaism, and Islam and said, hey, I'm real. There's only one God. Worship me. And
you're taking me back about 30 years. I actually remember being in a church back in central Indiana where a preacher was framing Jesus in the same terms as a really successful marketer.
Yeah, so that's the thing. The power behind gods is human belief. The power behind everything in the Titan City universe is human creativity, imagination. But the humans don't quite know that yet at this point in history.
So they're still kind of wrestling with the old while they deal with the new. This sounds really, really fascinating. So this book came out, looks like last year?
So it was originally released in 2019.
Okay.
With a different publisher, but then the publisher went bankrupt and I decided to re-release it self-published after I did an update and changed the cover and did all sorts of fun stuff with that.
Okay. Is the cover on Amazon the current cover, or is the one on alexanderwrites.com the current cover?
The one on alexanderwrites.com is the current paperback cover.
Okay.
This is a sample I'm playing with for the ebook cover. I'm trying to come up with a cover that works for the series as a whole, and that's been a struggle.
Yeah, art is just a big deal, especially for smaller publishers. That cover image has a lot to do with people clicking on your work, and if they pick it up. But these are both pretty cool. I like the black and white one better, but I have to say the full color one you have here, that's a Netflix series I would watch.
Right, I like that about that, but that cover's not sustainable because I can't get stock art of certain characters that are in the future books.
Okay, cool. Well, so what is next in the series? Do you have another one coming out this year or next?
The intention is to have another one out this year. I want to have one out before the end of this year and one out in the beginning of next year. But the sequel is called The Titan's Gambit, and it deals with Caroline Dupree, who is the daughter of Anson's ex-wife, who comes to bring him into the case, so to speak, grappling with new magical powers that she realizes she has in the first book. And she adopts a former hero's legacy, and she gets constantly compared to that hero, and she tries to determine, is it worth dealing with that? Does it matter to me if I'm not as quote-unquote good as he was at the job? But she's working with a costume crime fighter to stop the Titan Prometheus from taking away humanity's free will, which is the fire he gave us in the mythology. Interesting.
I like how you get kind of an undercurrent of two-fisted costume pulp heroes running through these.
Yeah, it was important to me. I have a lot of superhero sort of chops. That's sort of what I work on most often is superhero stuff with mutants and masterminds, and that's the kind of media I like to consume. I wanted to make something that was sort of like mythology, urban fantasy, superheroes all bundled up together into a nice gooey noir nugget.
Yeah, I dig it. I'm gonna check it out. So I have a lot of authors on, and a lot of the people I've talked to in the last few years have made the jump over to Audible. Have you thought about doing that?
I definitely want to. I haven't figured out quite how to do so yet.
Okay.
There's I want to do audio recordings because my mom said she won't read my books until they're audio books. That's just how she consumes books. So I don't blame her for it, but.
Yeah, no, I can't cast any stones at your mom because that is how I was once very snobby about audiobooks and like, oh, that's not really reading. But now that I'm a grown up with a job and a kid and a couple hobbies, yeah, pretty much the books I take in while I'm driving or at the gym. So yeah, I understand completely.
That's totally fair. I get it. It's I actually have a new map of Titan City I want to show you. I should have sent this to you before the.
Okay, if you want to share a window, I can put it up in the podcast.
Oh, that works.
Yeah. Have you? This is the most obvious question I could ask, but you're a guy who works for Green Ronin.
Mm-hmm.
You're doing fiction that sounds like it's got 1 foot in superheroes. Have you considered doing an RPG version of this series?
I definitely have, which is one of the big reasons I commissioned a map of the city.
Wow. Oh, look at this! Is beautiful. This is beautiful.
I want, and the main character of the first book, Anson, is he started as a Mutants and Masterminds player character for me, who had an unfortunate end in a game that I disagreed with, and I was like, you know what? I'm going to write my own book. I don't need the GM to determine how this character dies, and it got a little out of hand, and now here I am.
Well, that's probably the healthiest way to cope with that kind of disappointment, though. So,
yeah, I think so.
But yeah, who is your map maker? Because this is really, really well done.
Her name is Chloe Ballard.
Okay.
She, I found her on Twitter, and she was awesome. She read my my brief. She got this all exactly the way I wanted it to be, and it made it feel so real. Like there's things on this map where I'm like, oh, that's really annoying for some of the people who live there. Like down here in Baywash, they only have one subway stop. So everybody who lives here has to commute to that train station before they can go anywhere else in the city.
Some neighborhoods are like that, though.
Yeah.
So, no, that is a beautiful little map. I've spent some time commissioning maps over the years for various RPG projects, and you get a good one here. This is nice.
Yeah, I'm excited to release it as a campaign source, a campaign setting for M&M. It just depends on when I have time to do that writing and all that.
Yeah, it sounds like you're pretty busy. I am not going to ask you anything about M&M 4th edition because I'm sure you get those questions a lot, say at Gen Con just last month. So I'm not going to ask anything about that. But, hey, this is really cool. Do you have a process? Do you one of those guys who, got to get up every morning at 5 a.m. or write until 6? Or you just kind of write whenever the muse takes you, or you dictate into your smartphone as you're driving? Or
So I am one of those writers who has to sit down and write every day. And that's mostly powered by deadlines. I've got so many deadlines all the time that I'm always trying to knock something down before it comes up and gets me. And I impose some of those deadlines on myself in order to keep myself disciplined, but it's something I've learned through my work in the tabletop RPG industry to be good about, because oftentimes, if you can write on time, that's more important than being able to write well.
What's that? They say there's 3 qualities in a writer: getting in on time, writing well, and being pleasant to deal with. Mm-hmm. And you can be 2 out of the 3. Just pick which 2 you want to be.
So. Yeah, I've found that too. As I've been sort of hiring writers to work with, it's been weird being on both sides of that spectrum.
Mm-hmm. Once I said no questions about 4th Ed M&M, but is there anything new coming out we should know about for Mutants and Masterminds?
We have a couple of cool things coming out. We have the Astonishing Adventures Assembled, which is going to be 6 of the Astonishing Adventures we brought out last year in a print book, so that you'll have 6 adventures that you can bring to the table. And Steve, Crystal, and I have come up with ways to turn all 6 of those adventures into a campaign, even though they're not connected. So there's 3 campaigns in the book. And I have a series of time travel trilogy of adventures that's coming out before the end of the year for Astonishing Adventures. So it's going to be a ton of fun. A group of heroes has to stop basically a writer who is frustrated with editorial interference in the timeline.
That's kind of cool. Yeah, I've always wanted to see a superhero RPG time travel adventure, just because those are some of the most fun plot lines in the comic books and movies. It's just I figure it takes a lot of preparation and maybe outlining to make sure you get all the ducks in a row on that.
Yeah, and the it's sort of like a love letter to my child self because there's so many things in here that are just wild fun. Like when they go to the wild, a bunch of time periods get smashed together by this editor, this timeline editor. So like when they go to the Wild West, the cowboys are riding velociraptors and herding triceratops, and the Age of Sail is powered by cyberpunk technology. So there's like shadow runners on pirate boats trying to kill each other. It's a whole bunch of fun.
Oh, that sounds awesome. I can't wait to see that. Oh, cool. Was talking to a mutual friend of ours, Christopher McLaughlin, before we got on. He suggested I ask you about your essay about Triangle. Although that was not in transgressive horror, right? That was in this most recent science fiction book that Chris put together.
Yes, that's in the science fiction one that's not out yet. But
yeah, still in layout.
But the movie I did it for, I had never seen before I sat down to write the essay, and it was awesome. It was sort of a modern retelling of the Sisyphus tragedy, but it was an excellent masterclass on how to make a character's crappy decisions and the consequences of those decisions be what propels the plot forward. And I talk about that in the essay a little bit. It's a story about a woman who goes out sailing with her friends. Their boat gets turned over and they get picked up by a ghost ship called the Aeolus. And on the ship, she finds out that she's stuck in a time loop, sort of like Groundhog Day. Except the loop is all of her friends die, and then she winds up being the person trying to kill all of her friends, and then she gets knocked off the boat. And then this really horrible, tragic thing happens at the end, which I won't spoil here, but I will spoil in the essay.
Cool. And I really wish I could throw out a link and say, hey, you can get the essay here. But I think we're still herding all the writers in and getting it into layout. But it's got a cool cover, and it is right there. So
yeah, that's by Hal Mangold, right?
The legendary Hal Mangold, yeah, who does a lot of your layout and cover design over at Green Ronin, I believe. So yeah,
it's awesome.
Hal is a god among men. So cool. Well, hey, so people check out The Magician's Sin at tinyurl.com/Alex Thomas Writer. Goes to your Amazon page. They can pick that up for a ridiculously cheap price in Kindle form. And they should be looking at the end of the year for the second book, The Titan's
Gambit. Yes.
Titan's Gambit. And alexanderwrites.com if they want to find out the rest of your projects you're involved with. Alex, I really appreciate your time. I know it's a holiday weekend and everything. Appreciate you coming on and talk to us and whatnot.
Yeah, of course. I hope people like what's going on, and I can't wait to see some more people in Titan City.
Yeah, sweet. All right, thanks for your time. Thanks, everybody, for checking us out, and we will see you next time on the BAMF Podcast.